Hey there, Alex Kidman here, and I'm a bit out of breath and I'm a bit sweaty, and the reason for that is because I've been running and testing out the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra. Let's get into the review. Okay, before I start this review, I have to address the rather obvious pachyderm in the pavilion. And that's the whole argument about whether or not Samsung is just copying Apple with the Apple Watch Ultra with the Galaxy Watch Ultra. To which my answer is, well, yes, sort of. There's no doubt they're kind of leaning into that similar branding. And yes, I know Samsung's had Ultra-branded things before. But within the smart wearable space, there is a comparison to be made, for sure, if you must. But it's a pretty useless comparison. Why useless? Well, simply put, because the Apple Watch Ultra, like every other Apple Watch out there, works with Apple devices. It does not, and basically never will, work with Android devices. And the Galaxy Watch Ultra is the reverse. It works with Android devices. Preferentially, Samsung would rather you paired it up to a Samsung Galaxy Watch, but you can pair it to other Android devices, and never iOS. So I feel like the target market that's going to buy this is never going to buy an Apple Watch Ultra anyway, and the Apple Watch Ultra buyers are never going to buy this. The comparison might be interesting at a kind of technical sense. Now, there is one area in this review where I am going to get into that just a little bit, but otherwise, no. I think the most useful thing you can do in a review is say, should you buy it, should you not, if you're in the market for it. And Apple owners are not in the market for this watch. End of story. Now, on with the review. And look, honestly, the Galaxy Watch Ultra is a pretty striking timepiece with some interesting features, especially if you're a multi-sport or endurance-type athlete. I can see what Samsung's gone for here, and in a lot of ways it's succeeded, but not in every single way. This is very much a version 1 product, and it's kind of hard for me to recommend. Let's get into why that is, first of all, talking about the design. So you can buy the Galaxy Watch Ultra in 3 different hues, either titanium silver, which is basically titanium for most folks, I feel, titanium white, or titanium black, which is the model that Samsung has loaned me for review. The Galaxy Watch Ultra only comes in this 147mm size, which means it sort of matches up to last year's Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, which was a smartwatch that I really liked because it features Samsung's single best idea for wearable devices ever. And I'm talking here, of course, about the rotating bezel. Guess what? The Galaxy Watch Ultra, despite it being the Ultra, doesn't have. This burns me, Samsung. Where is my rotating bezel on the Ultra? And no, having a software equivalent where I run my finger around the inside of the screen does not cut it. It's not as precise. It's not as satisfying. I get that maybe for durability reasons you couldn't do it this year. Please do it next year. I actually don't get why Samsung doesn't do this on every watch every year, because it's easily their best unique design point that nobody else does. I would do it every year if I was running Samsung, but I'm not. You might have guessed that. While I can be personally irritated that there's no rotating bezel, you certainly get plenty of controls outside of the touchscreen. You've also got 3 side buttons for quick return to home at the top, a quick action button in the middle, and then a back button at the bottom. And you can configure these mostly to anything you'd like. There are some limitations. So, for example, a long press of the top button will, by default, take you to Bixby, but you can only configure that long press to either be Google Assistant or the power menu. And look, it's Bixby. Who wants Bixby? I very quickly changed that functionality. It would be nice to be able to do everything with everything. You can still do a fair amount here, however. Now, while the Galaxy Ultra's 47mm body is quite large, and large on my wrist for sure, there's no petite size Ultra option to speak of, you don't actually get a massive screen with that. It's a 1.5mm squircle screen. I'm not fond of that word, but it's what everyone uses, with a resolution of 480 by 480. So it's basically a circular screen. It's also very bright, 3000 nits of brightness, and that's great for outdoor viewing or even as an emergency flashlight. This is a really nicely presented screen, which you'd very much expect out of Samsung. The Galaxy Watch Ultra is effectively a new line for Samsung. They have done larger watches in the past, but this is their premium athlete play. And what that means is that you also get a new range of bands, which attach or detach with a very simple little unlock mechanism built into each end of the watch. It works pretty well. I like it a lot, especially compared to something like the Pixel Watch, where those bands are really, really fiddly to get in and out. These ones are not. The bright orange certainly stands out. Can't think what it reminds me of, but it's a decent enough band. A little bit big on my wrist, but again, that's a fit and comfort kind of thing, and there are alternate bands, and there will almost certainly be more alternate bands as we go forwards. Samsung already has Galaxy wearables in the market. I mean, this year's basic model, if you will, is the Galaxy Watch 7. And what's meant to make the Galaxy Watch Ultra stand out here is its extreme durability. So the titanium body that it has should stand up to some serious wear and tear, as should its sapphire glass front display. And no, I haven't tested it to the point of destruction. I've got a whole video on why I don't do that kind of generally stupid testing, even with durable devices. But this should be a decent rough and tumble kind of thing if you trip over while you're exercising or what have you. In terms of water resistance, though, it's an interesting sort of place. So it's officially rated as IP68 and capable of up to 10 atmospheres of pressure. So, in other words, it can do up to 100 meters of water resistance with some pretty serious caveats in play. Now, I should say here, I have not gone diving with this watch during the period where I've been testing it. It's the middle of winter and I don't have a pool and that kind of thing. I've not done that testing myself. What I'm basing this off, though, is Samsung's own claims around it. And this is the one area where I am going to compare it to Apple's Ultra watch, simply because that is a more serious diving watch if that's what you're into. It is rated for that kind of scuba diving thing. It has depth sensors and all that kind of stuff. This doesn't, but moreover, Samsung seriously hedges its bets in terms of what it can actually do. So let's consider that 100 meter figure. And here I am going to read out a precise Samsung statement. This is from the specification sheet they sent me for the Galaxy Watch Ultra, because it's kind of important if you're thinking about this as a wet watch, as a watch that you're going to use for lots of water activities. Check this out. Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra is water resistant for 10 minutes in water with a depth of 100 meters according to the ISO 22810 standard. The test was conducted in 5% salty water and 4 ppm chlorine water. Galaxy Watch Ultra is water resistant with an IP68 rating based on the lab test conditions for submersion in up to 1.5 meters fresh water for up to 30 minutes. It is not suitable for high pressure water activities and diving. It may be used for shallow water activities like swimming in a pool or ocean. Not advised for beach or pool use. Wait, so it may be used for shallow water activities like swimming in a pool or ocean, but it's not advised for beach or pool use? So what? If I dive off a cruise ship, that's okay. But if I take it to the beach, I'm taking my chances. And look, I get it. Some of this is just the legalese. It's just Samsung covering themselves for warranty failures and things like that. But it's not exactly something that builds a lot of confidence in me about the ongoing durability of this particular watch when Samsung has to qualify itself so much in the fine print. Again, if you're not going to be particularly taking this thing swimming a whole bunch, this might not be a concern at all. But if you are, you may want to look into smart wearables that have slightly more durability, even if they're not quite as smart as the Galaxy Watch Ultra is. In terms of performance, the Galaxy Watch Ultra is built around Samsung's own Exynos W1000 processor with 2GB of RAM and 32GB of internal storage. And it's a Wear OS device with Samsung's own One UI sitting on top of it, which means you get the full Wear OS experience with a small slew of Samsung's own unique features. And a lot of those are features that Samsung's actually had for a while on its Galaxy wearables. Wear OS apps themselves run slickly on the W1000. There's not really a good way to benchmark the performance of this against, the competing Snapdragon chips that you find in a lot of other Wear OS devices, but I've had no complaints. It's technically interesting that this was built on a 3nm process for sure. In terms of day-to-day usage, though, what you'll really notice is there's basically no lag on this watch, which is absolutely as it should be for a $1,299 watch. The issue here, though, is that I think while it's a good Wear OS watch, that's actually true for most new current Wear OS devices anyway. It's been a while since I've hit one where I've gone, oh, this is a bit laggy, this is a bit slow, this is a bit poor. And that doesn't really give it a huge reason to buy this just as a Wear OS device by itself. It's fine, it's perfect, it works well, but most of them do. I can't see why you'd spend the extra money on this if that's all you needed. On the fitness side, Samsung says that the new and improved sensors on the Galaxy Watch Ultra are even more accurate than in prior models for essential health functions, matched up with dual GPS for more precise outdoor tracking. This has all worked quite well in my testing. Again, I don't have a clone me to kind of test against to say, yes, it's definitely better than this was, but I've had no complaints there. There's also support for blood pressure monitoring of a sort. This isn't like via an included pressure cuff a la the Huawei Watch D. Instead, it works with your existing blood pressure cuff to capture those measurements, at which point I wonder why you wouldn't just use your existing cuff. I'm not quite seeing the point here beyond, I guess, throwing that data into Samsung Health or other applications. Like prior Samsung smartwatches, the Galaxy Watch Ultra will also pick up if you're exercising and forget to start in exercise mode for things like walking and running. They do take a couple of minutes to kick in, about 3 minutes or so for a run, a little bit more for a walk. I have noticed that it's thought I've been walking when I've been out doing my supermarket shopping, for example. And look, this is a nice to have feature if you forget to engage those modes, although it's not always super accurate. So to test that out, I took it out a couple of times for my typical 5K run, and that's a track that I'm very, very used to. I'm very confident that it is 5 kilometers pretty much exactly, and I know where it is, I know where it starts, I know where it stops, and if I didn't engage it straight away to say I'm doing a 5K run, it would measure me after a while, but I'd lose anywhere between 50 to 200 meters of that run in terms of tracking accuracy. So it's still better for sure to actually start exercises. Great though if you do forget. The Galaxy Watch Ultra also offers a multi-sport tracking system that lets you pick from a range of activities for your own personal triathlons. Now, that's neat if you need it. Not my style for sure. I run and I walk, but I don't do much else. But I should note that while it's customizable, that's customizable around classic triathlon exercises. So running, walking, swimming, that kind of thing, some biking. But that does mean that you can't build multi-sport around every exercise that the Galaxy Watch Ultra will track. So, for example, if your dream of a triathlon has long been to combine American football, ballet, and hang gliding, then, well, A, you're a very weird individual, B, I would watch the heck out of your sport, and C, you're going to have to keep dreaming because it just won't cover that. In terms of running comfort, I did take it out on a few runs as stated. Let's see how I went. Okay, one hard run down with the Galaxy Watch Ultra. Did reasonably well, tracked well. Not as uncomfortable as you might imagine a big watch would be, although I definitely did feel it in the same way that you'd feel the Apple Watch something well, but it tracked well. I ran well enough under the circumstances. Now back to the studio. On the sleep tracking front, look, this is a feature I've often found to be a little bit hit and miss on most smartwatches, and the Galaxy Watch Ultra really isn't all that different. I found it a little bit difficult to sleep with because it's a larger watch. I often find those just snag on the bedclothes and things like that. I feel them a little bit more. But above and beyond that, there were periods where I knew that I was awake. Insomnia is a real pain to have, folks. And it didn't really pick that. So whilst it's not a bad thing to have, I don't really need to spend this much on a watch to tell me that I don't get enough sleep. I already know that. If I don't want to sleep at all, of course, perhaps because I'm worried about the boogeyman coming to get me, the Galaxy Watch Ultra does include a very loud siren that's activated with a long press of the central quick button. I'll fire that one up. Let's give it a look. Oh, that's getting painful. I'm stopping that. Yeah. You get the idea. You get the idea. Good for emergencies, no doubt, though honestly, if I had to activate it, I'd probably want to try and take it off my wrist because it really is that loud. On the battery front, the larger body of the Galaxy Watch Ultra does give it more room for batteries, and Samsung certainly hasn't skimped in this regard, packing in a 590 mAh battery, basically the largest you'll see in a Wear OS device that I'm aware of. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And look, it's larger than the battery that you'll find, for example, in the 47mm Galaxy Watch 6 Classic or this year's Galaxy Watch 7, both of which pack in a 425 mAh pack. There's size, and as they say in the hoariest old euphemistic jokes, there's what you do with it. And here, my experiences with the Galaxy Watch Ultra have been quite mixed. At best, without dipping into extreme battery-saving measures, because they're not a bad option to have, but why buy a $1,299 smartwatch not to use it to its full capacity? But at best, without those battery-saving measures, I can manage 2 days of battery usage, maybe just stretching into a third day. However, that's not always been the case. I have had times where I've only made a day and a half, stretching towards 2 days, despite fairly similar usage profiles over both periods. I don't know if it's a Bluetooth tracking thing, a GPS thing. I'm really not sure what I was doing differently on those days. But I'm also struck by the fact that I have tested other Wear OS devices that can do more. Quite recently, for example, the Oppo Watch X that I tested, that has a smaller battery than the Galaxy Watch Ultra, but generally managed more battery life than it did. And for this kind of extreme athlete, you're going to go out hiking or climbing mountains or whatever kind of watch, I really would wish for a little bit more battery life than I was seeing here. Recharging is via a custom magnetic disc. It's not quite Qi, unfortunately, so you really don't want to lose that. With just the disc and cable supplied in the box, you do not get a charger with it. So should you buy the Galaxy Watch Ultra? Well, look, it's a visually striking smartwatch, and I totally can see the appeal if you're a multi-sport athlete with an Android phone looking for a more robust device. However, it's an expensive device. It's only essentially as good as most other Wear OS devices for those kinds of applications. Samsung's qualifications around its water resistance really do give me pause for thought. It's not quite as good as the competition, but it's also not exactly instilling a lot of confidence in me. And all of this leaves me thinking, yeah, this really is a version 1 product. This is not a bad smartwatch, but I think for $12.99 you probably want more. And maybe next year's version of the same thing, a little bit improved, maybe a bit better battery life, would be the one to buy. So that's my take on the Galaxy Watch Ultra. What do you think? Got any comments? Hit me up below, and as always, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell.